Richard has been with Senior Solutions. Has it been 3 years now, Richard, or about to be?
Yeah, August is actually going to be 3 years.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I wanna make a couple of announcements real quick. This coming Wednesday, July the 31st, we're gonna be in San Marcos, Texas. We're gonna do some training from 9 to 2. This is gonna be for new agents. So if you're new to Final Expense or you're new to Senior Solutions and you want to get some basics on how to present, how to fill out the application, and the underwriting guidelines on it, we're going to be there. So screenshot that. San Marcos, Texas, this coming Wednesday, 9 to 12. If you need any details on that, give me a call. I see Kevin Cerna's on the call this morning. Kevin, that's just right in your area, so I think that'd be great for you to attend if you're not already committed to something else. Here's another announcement. We're going to be in Houston August 5th. We're going to be at a really, really nice venue. It's called the Houston Club. It is in one of those towers that you see there in the background. I've seen pictures of the place. It's phenomenal. We're going to have a guest speaker, Mike Slades, with Mutual of Omaha. I met Slades here in San Antonio. Richard was there. I know Jaime Cano was present. Oops. There we go. Jaime Cano was present. We all got to meet Richard about 2.5, 3 years ago, I guess. And he's gonna address the group. So that's going to be a really good event. So again, that's going to be Monday, August 5th. It's going to be between 10 and 2. It's in the downtown area. So, write that address down if you're going to be in the Houston area, if you like to attend. The parking is going to be free. You're going to have to get it validated. And we designed this so that you can arrive after traffic in the morning and leave before rush hour in the afternoon. So that's this coming, not this Monday, but the following Monday. And then later in August, we are going to be in Dallas on the 26th. And we're going to have Jessica Helms with Mutual of Omaha meet us there. We do not have the venue, booked 100%, so that's going to be announced, but we do have the date solid. So that's going to be August the 26th. On both Houston and Dallas, both Joe and I will be present at both of those events. So you'll get to come out and meet us, take advantage of some good training. So let's go ahead and move forward here. So Joe always likes to talk about the new agent starter kit. So I just kind of want to keep that up with Joe. If you're new to the business, guys, how can you be in business without having the necessary tools? So obviously having business cards is a must. Having your flip chart presentation, your ID badge, your presentation, or not your presentation, your pre-sale folder, the peace of mind kits, and also the door tag. So guys, if you don't already have that, send Joe Johnson an email, tell him you need it. He has like 3 different offerings, 3 different packages you can choose from. Definitely a must. So lastly, I want to talk about, Senior Solutions now offering Facebook leads. So, we talk a lot about the direct mail leads, but guys, I just want to kind of hone in on Facebook leads real quick. This is really the direction that our society is going, is electronics. The older folks, the baby boomers, are even halfway split between the ones that are responding to direct mails, and then the younger baby boomers are more electronic. They're on Facebook, they're on the internet. And so, if you're not getting them with the direct mail, this is a second approach to get them. My advice here is not to go one way or the other, to do both. You got to get a little bit of everything. So with this opportunity, there's the website. You can go to, screenshot this, log in. You can order your Facebook leads. You get a minimum of 20 leads for $400. And the nice thing about Facebook leads is it's minimum 20. So you might get back 25 or even 30 leads and bring your average cost down. So guys, just to set the right expectation, you're going to get leads as soon as you place your order. You're going to get leads typically within 24 hours. So I mean, they come in really quick. You typically get 3 or 4 every day, and it'll run for the whole week. So if 20 comes in, you get 20. If 30 comes in, you get 30. If you get something in the middle, that's what you get. If for some reason you fall short, you just need to reach out to our marketing group. They will go ahead and run some additional ads at no additional cost to you to make sure they fill your order. If you need some answers about that, or you have questions, just reach out to Joe or myself. We'll be able to talk to you more about that. So those are the announcements. Let's go ahead and get on with the training. So recently, and I bet you, Richard, you probably have heard this from reps or agents out in the field. I hear this all the time. I hear, you know what? If only my family supported me, I'd be successful. My spouse is holding me back. They're not 100% convinced. Or my parents, or my mother, or my father, or my children, or my brother, my sister. But they're looking for their family to support them, and they look at people that have made it to a certain level of success, and they say, well, I want to thank my family, I want to thank my spouse for their support, because without their support I wouldn't have been able to do this. And then that kind of conditions people to think, well, if I don't have my family support, I'm not going to be able to do this. And so Richard, have you heard that from people?
Yeah, a lot of times, well, I've heard from like spouses, typically, not really believing or thinking that it's a legit business, that you can make some good money. Um, and then, of course, just, spouses typically tend to think because they have more time that they don't really have a place to have to go clock into and stuff. So, they kind of see it as that, it's not, your traditional, I guess, 9 to 5 office job or something.
Yeah, and here's what I have to tell you is that, if your family support group, your spouse or your parents or whoever it is you're looking to for support, if they're not in business for themselves, they're not going to understand being in business. You're not going to get their support. So stop looking for it. I mean, think about that. If they're used to the traditional, I'm going to say, go to school, get educated, get a good job, go get a corporate job with benefits, they're not going to understand someone wanting to build their own business. And so I wanted to kind of show this. So these are the questions I get. What do you mean you want to quit your job and start a business? In life insurance? Are they going to pay you a salary? What are your benefits? What do you mean you have to buy your leads? What do you mean the leads are 30 bucks each? Are you crazy? So the reason I wanted Richard on is because Richard, before he came on with Senior Solutions, was in the corporate world, worked for a Fortune 500 company, and was successful with them and had a lot of good benefits. So Richard, tell us a little bit about your story there.
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. Well, yeah, as Jimmy said, I worked with a Fortune 500 company, and which is AT&T, and was successful with them. Had life insurance with them, paid benefits, 401k, health insurance. I didn't have to buy leads or spend money to make money with them. So no, as you can see, these questions, when I told my ex-wife that I wanted to quit AT&T, the stability of having an income, a steady income, to do life insurance, something that I knew very little about. It was hard to convince and get her on my side to say, and get that support to say, go ahead and let's do this, let's make this happen. But if you get it, you get it. And I know that it only took me one time to go on a ride along with Jimmy to realize the potential of this industry. And I never looked back. I put in my 2 weeks notice. I started part-time and then put in my 2 weeks notice once I started income coming in, having income coming in. So yeah, these questions were posed to me, so I certainly can relate to them. It's not easy to convince a spouse about this, but um, in this industry, there's money to be made, and I'm really glad I made that decision.
Awesome. Well, so here's what I want to summarize this, and then we're actually going to move into training. But the thing is that you're not going to, don't expect to get your family support in the beginning if they're not already business minded, right? And you can't blame them. They're just not conditioned that way. You have to believe in yourself. What you have to understand is that you have to go out there and prove yourself to them. You got to show them that you mean business, that this is actually going to be a money making, business. Once you can prove it to them, guess what they're going to tell you? They're going to say, you know what? Always knew you were going to do it. Always knew you were going to be successful. And that's what happens. And on the flip side, I've seen guys come into the business and they had full support from their family. Their family even backed them up with money, gave them loans to buy their leads, to keep them going. And you know what? Those reps weren't successful. Those reps still failed. So think about that. Some reps or agents had their support from their family, both I guess you can say emotional support and financial support, but yet they still failed. Other agents, no support from the family whatsoever, and then they become highly successful. So why is that? What's the difference between the successful and the unsuccessful? Well, first off, you got to believe in yourself, but you got to be able to instill some really good habits. And that's what our topic today is going to be on habits. So, oops, I'm going the wrong direction. Here we go. So that's my little picture that says believe in yourself. You remember those days? So let's talk about this. Motivation will get you started. A lot of people, they like to listen to motivational speakers. I know I like to listen to Les Brown. Some people like Tony Robbins. But that's only to get you going. That's just to put your body in motion. But what's going to keep you going and keep you successful is having really good habits. And so I love this quote by Jim Rohn. And so I want to talk about some successful habits, things that you can do to make sure that you're going to, be successful. So the first habit, well, you know what? Let me say this before we talk about habits. Let me tell you why habits are really, the foundation of being successful. Whether you have a good habit or a bad habit, habits are things that you do without thinking. In other words, your mind is running on autopilot. Okay. So whether again it's a good habit or a bad habit, you don't consciously think about what you're doing. Something happens, there's a trigger, and you see it, and then you automatically do something else. And that's the way the brain was designed, so that it could rest and not overwork. I think I'll give you two examples. How many people can relate to maybe being on the highway, driving, and you go to work every day, every day, every day, you take the same routine, right? And then one day you're thinking, I don't even remember driving here today. How did I get here? I was just lost in thought. It was because your subconscious mind knows the habits, and it kind of shuts you down, and you just followed the pattern, right? Here's another example of habits. How many people remember being back in grade school and you were learning your times tables, right? So now you're an adult and somebody, asks you a question, what's 3 times 5? You don't even have to think about it. You know the answer is 15. That's a habit, right? And so that's what I'm talking about. So you need to have some good habits, so that without you having to make a conscious decision, you're just automatically doing it. So let's get this kicked off. So the first habit that I want to talk about is starting early. So let me ask you, Richard, what time do you get started?
I usually get started at my first door by 8:30, 9 o'clock at the latest.
Okay. So the first door, you're knocking on that door at 8:30 or 9 o'clock, correct?
Yep, just like if I would be clocking into any other job.
Awesome. Okay. So how many agents are on this call and you're not out of the door at 8:30 or 9? How many agents are on this call that they're, still drinking coffee or maybe not even out of bed? I don't know what your personal habits are, but you got to start early. There's an old saying that says the early bird gets the worm. That is so true. You know what? There's a lot of times I hear agents telling me that they can't get a hold of people during the day. Well, they're not getting there early enough. Maybe those folks are already out and about. Maybe they have doctor's appointments. Maybe they go shopping. Maybe they're going to go visit somebody that's in the hospital or somebody's in the nursing home. Just because they're seniors doesn't necessarily mean that they're stuck at home. So you got to catch them early. So get your day started early. Don't get stuck at the house. Get out early. Richard, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, the like you said, it becomes habit after a while. It's hard to get up and get out of bed when you don't really need to punch in anywhere. But if you treat this like your business and your doors open at 8:30 and you start doing it every day, eventually it becomes a habit, and your brain just does it automatically. Your body does it automatically. So just stay consistent with it.
Awesome. The second habit that you need to get embedded is finishing the day. You need to finish. Okay. So what I mean by that is a lot of times agents are out in the field and they plan their day, they got their door knocks, and maybe they're not having success getting anybody at home, or maybe they're getting rejected and it's 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Things start popping up in our brain that says, you know what, today's just not a good day. You got these chores you need to get done at the house, or maybe you can go, follow up on a case, or maybe you can go make phone calls, or what, maybe you're just gonna, go get something to eat and take an extra long lunch. Like, all these thoughts go through your head. I know, because they go through my head too. But you have to stay on course and make sure that you finish the day. You might start the day uh, not being able to make a sell, but then you might finish strong. And I know this has happened with Richard a lot of times. So, Richard, you want to tell him any of your examples of finishing the day?
Yeah, of course. Just like you said, Jimmy, it's really your mind can play tricks on you, especially if you've been having a terrible day. I've had plenty of days where it's been 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock, and I have nothing. I've been door knocking. I've had sits and no apps written. But you continue the day, as you said. And I've had plenty of times when I've wanted to just call it a day at 2, 3 in the afternoon, and I just keep going. And then my very last, appointment, or not an appointment, but I'm sorry, but my last door knock of the day at 5, 6 in the afternoon or something, it ends up being an application, not just one, but maybe two, and really good ones. I've seen a lot of the apps that I typically write in the late afternoons. It's going to be a husband and wife, and they're typically good applications. So yeah, plenty of times, plenty of experiences where I've wanted to quit, but like you said, you got to keep working and finish the day. And I could attest to finishing the day and having great days towards the end of the day.
Awesome. And just to kind of, put things in perspective, how much did you make last week, Richard?
Last week, I believe, let me see if I can pull that up really quick. Uh, was about 5,800 roughly.
$5,800. That's amazing. That's just in one week. Those were commissions. So most people, want to make that in a month, right? You made that in a week.
Yeah.
So guys, you know, part of making a successful habit is rewarding yourself. So whether you have the big sell or you end up with a goose egg for the day, you have to reward yourself. So maybe, you know, there's some kind of special treat that you like, that you can reward yourself to sticking it out all day. But that's one thing I recommend. I mean, I remember, I guess it was about 2 years ago when you were in San Antonio, one particular day, like you were so frustrated, you're gonna call it quits, and I kept encouraging you, no, just, you know, just keep door knocking, you know, don't give up. And at the end of the day, I remember you had a huge double header, husband and wife, and I think it made you like $2,800 or something like that, or maybe even a little bit more. And it was, you know, all came late in the afternoon, and that's happened time and time again. So guys, finish your day. Let's talk about another really good habit, and that is don't skip steps. Okay, don't skip steps in your I guess you can say your marketing, or don't skip steps in prospecting, and don't skip steps in your presentation. Okay, this is really key, because a lot of times what happens is we learn the presentation, we know all the steps to the presentation, and then we do it over and over, and then we get bored with ourselves, right? And so we start leaving stuff out. We start trying to shorten it, okay? But what you have to remind yourself is that your client, your prospect, it's new to them. They haven't heard the story before. So don't skip steps, because what happens when you start leaving stuff out, that might have been the reason why they would have bought instead of not bought.
Hey,
And so
Jimmy,
please, yes, sir.
real quick, are you changing the slide or anything? Because I still see the quote from Jim Rohn.
No, I want it there.
Okay, perfect.
All right, thank you. So, what do you want to add anything to don't skip steps?
No, you covered it great.
Okay, cool, cool. So here's another habit is be interested in your client. Don't try to be interesting. That's huge. What do I mean by that? I mean, you have to take a personal interest in their stories, in their family. You have to be sincerely interested in that person. You want them to tell you all about them and their family, right? You might need to give them a little feedback and give them a little something about you, but the difference is you're not trying to, you know, put on a show for them. You're trying to get to know them and be sincerely interested in them. And when you build that rapport, it's just gonna create more sales. So I don't know if you want to say anything about that, Richard.
Yeah, it's really easy to try to ask questions or figure out what kind of questions to ask, and just be very observant of your surroundings in the home. If you see any family pictures, if you see any military pictures or any type of military things on the walls, things like that, that's really a good talking point. I know when I've talked to a lot of veterans that were in Vietnam, like you just ask them about Vietnam and they just keep going. They have so many stories to tell about Vietnam and Agent Orange, and all the things that they're being affected by now because of that Agent Orange. So and it's really interesting because I've taken a liking to history. The older I've gotten, and I really like hearing these stories about these people's lives and what they've gone through and where they've lived and where they've traveled and things like that. And it's really interesting. And it makes it more comfortable for the client that you're showing genuine interest in them. And it makes it easier to get the sale typically at the end, because you've kind of made it personal. They've told you their stories, their life stories, things like that. So definitely really important to be genuinely interested in their story, like you said, Jimmy.
Awesome. My next habit that I want you to create is assume the sell. Just assume that they're going to go with it. If you're doing all the things right, you're not skipping steps, you're showing interest in them, you're, sincerely, building that rapport with the client, just assume that they're moving forward. You just gotta have to have, it's an attitude. Just assume the sell. Just, I don't ask people, do you want to do this? Do you want to buy this? I never ask that. I just assume it. I just start filling out the paperwork. I ask them if what is their middle initial? Just assume the sell. I don't know if you want to say anything about assuming the sell, Richard. I know you're a strong closer.
I know typically what I do is, like you said, I don't ask if they want to move forward or whatnot. Typically when you're doing 3 option close, you ask them, which of those 3 options makes the most sense to them, and once they decide, then, like you said, take out the application, start asking questions when they would like the deposit or the draft to be, what day they would like it to be. Just assume that, like you said, everything that you've explained and you've got their agreement on, that they're ready to move forward. Don't give them that option, or don't ask them.
Great, great. Next habit you need to get doing is follow up. Okay, so what do I mean by follow up? I'm not talking about follow up on the one that you didn't get. My thought process is this, you know, final expense is super simple. You got 3 components. You have a death benefit, you have a monthly premium, and you have a beneficiary, and that's it. It's not complicated. I don't ever take I want to think about it as an answer because there's nothing to think about. You either want it or you don't. That's kind of like my attitude, right? I don't ever say that to a client, but think about what I just said. It's that simple, right? So assume the sell, move forward with it. When people tell me that they want to think about it, I just tell them, great. I expect you to think about it. The thing is that you're not having to pay anything today. Let's get the application submitted, and then that way the carrier can start pulling up the medical information. And while we're waiting on an approval, that gives you some time to think about it or talk it over with whoever you need to talk it over with, and then we can just move forward from there. So I don't let that stand in my way. So when I say follow up, what am I talking about? I'm talking about following up on the people that I wrote. See, because the first thing you need to do is go back home, fill out a thank you card, and mail that to them immediately. Like that my habit is every day I come home, I fill out thank you cards and I send those out. They're in the mailbox that night so that they're ready to go out the following day. I want them to know that I'm legitimate, not only legitimate, but I'm legitimately going to take care of them, that I'm in a business of taking care of people. My people know that I'm concerned about them. The second follow-up that I do is I give them a phone call once the application is submitted the next day, and I just simply say, hey, Mr. Customer, this is Jimmy, your life insurance agent. Oh, yeah, yeah. I just wanted to let you know that your application has been submitted, and as soon as I hear back, I will, get with you on the answer. And then when I hear back, I get with them on an answer. You just got to stay follow up. If it comes back pending with some kind of question, give them a call, ask the question. So when you have really strong communication, really strong follow up, people appreciate that, and they know that you mean business, and that they want to do business with you. The other reason is sometimes if they get cold feet, maybe they talk to a family member and they gave them some kind of negative information, maybe got after them, why did you do that? You're just reassuring them now. When would you like to find out? As early as possible so you can address the issue. And then finally, good follow-up leads to good referrals. So I love that. I'm at a point in my career that I get referrals every week. People are calling me. It's just amazing. You do this long enough, people know that you care. They say, hey, you need to call Jimmy. And I get referrals every week. So guys, good, strong follow-up. Um, Richard, you want to say anything regarding that topic?
No, you did a great job. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we're getting close to the end of this list. Number 7 I have is never run out of leads. Guys, that's a habit. if you run out of leads, you don't have people to talk to. You don't have a story to tell, you know? And so what happens when people run out of leads, they get bored, they fall out of doing good habits, right? And then they kind of start falling apart. You know, you can always rehash your old leads, but that gets frustrating. If you keep trying to call the same old people and getting the same rejection, you're just going to beat yourself up. You got to have fresh people to talk to. And that's why it's so important to mix up your leads. We have direct mail leads, Facebook leads, and they just announced it today. There's B leads available. Some are sell. You can get them for $1.50 a piece. Guys, that's fresh people to talk to. I know I have a lot of agents in Texas. I made some notes. If you're working in Bexar County, there's over 300 B leads available. If you're in Corpus, there's B leads available. There's a market. There's never B leads available, but guess what? Hidalgo County, there's 39 B leads available. That's amazing. Dallas, there's B leads available. Guys, take advantage of that. You know, if you don't have the email that comes to you every Friday to tell you the lead inventory, get with Joe or myself and we'll make sure we get you on the list. So I know this is a national call. You may not be in Texas, you may be in another part of the country. Get the inventory list, go through it, check to see what leads are available. This is the best time to buy when they go on sale. So 150, rather 100 leads is 150 bucks. And so that's nothing. One sell, you're not only making your money back, but you know, you're in the green just with one sell. So it's a no-brainer. Have plenty of leads, never run out of leads. And that's a habit. You have to always be checking your inventory. You need to know how many leads are my owed, how many lead orders do I have? Am I running out of leads? Do I need to supplement that with some B leads, some overflows or A minus, whatever's available, but don't run out of leads. Richard, tell us about some times when you've run out of leads.
Yeah, like right now. Uh, right now is actually a perfect example because I've been working out of town. I've been working El Paso market, and I've actually ran out of leads. And I've been working the old leads, but like you said, you know, it's frustrating to keep working the same leads. It's a lot easier to work fresh leads than old ones. And you know, in the past, I've had agents. Pretty much all of the agents actually that I've recruited have all stopped doing insurance because you know they ran out of leads and things like that. So it's not good to run out of leads because eventually you're gonna run out of funds. You're not gonna be able to pay your bills. You're not gonna have money for bills, and you're not gonna have money for additional leads. So definitely need to not run out of leads.
Can y'all hear my computer ringing?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how to do that. Somebody's got to help me. I'm not too technically savvy, but I keep getting these internet calls. I don't even know how to answer it or why I'm getting them. But anyway, all right. So that was never run out of leads. And then lastly, I want to talk about you got to get in the habit of using this document. Now, last week we had Candy Cardona on the phone. She said, the activity, she attributes a lot of her success to the activity tracker. Guys, this is huge. This is instrumental. I remember reading a book about a year and a half ago called The Power of Habit. And one of the examples that they talked about is people that are trying to lose weight, right? And they have doctors, they have scientists doing all these studies and research on weight loss and what's an effective exercise program and what's a great diet and all these things. And you know what they found? The most successful, the highest percentage of success, which was 66%, that's a pretty high number, and the longest lasting, so not only the highest success rate, but the longest lasting was with a group that they repeated this over and over in different parts of the country. If these people could just implement one new habit, and that habit was logging their food. In other words, keeping a food diary or a food log of everything that they eat. If they just do that one thing, 66% are going to succeed. Think about that. Why was it successful? Well, they said that because when people started writing down what they eat every day, they could see for themselves a habit, a pattern, right? So without having to put anything else on those folks, they implemented their own diet, they implemented their own physical activity, and they were successful in losing weight. Guys, we've had this tool in the back office for the longest time. I'm introducing to you the secret to success. Right here is the daily activity tracker. If you keep track of how many prospects you're either calling or knocking on doors, how many times you talk to them, who did you talk to, not who, but how many people did you talk to, and how many appointments did you set up, how many presentations did you make, how many did you close, all that stuff. This right here is the key to staying on point with those habits. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is what makes a habit stick is repetition. You have to do it over and over and over. It's like learning your times table. You just keep doing it. At first, you have to consciously be aware of it, right? But then after you've done it so many times, you just automatically do it. And then you do it without thinking. And that's where you need to get to be successful. So let's see here. Do you want to add anything to that, Richard, before we move forward?
Yeah, just that, I know Joe in the past has stressed how important the daily activity tracker is. And could tell you, I don't know the numbers, Jimmy, but maybe you could say, but I know he said he knows that for every so many door knocks, he knows he's going to get a sale or an application and things like that. And that's due to knowing, how many door knocks he's had each day and how many apps he's had because of those door knocks. So it's really good to know those numbers.
Yeah, and you know what? It kind of like puts it in front of you. Sometimes you think you're busy, right? You've had a really busy week, and then you look at the numbers like, man, I really didn't do much.
Yeah.
Kind of holds you accountable. And you can look at this daily. If you get in the habit of doing this daily, then you'll stay on point. You know, really the success for any business is activity. You got to have activity. Um, so let's move on. I want to talk about the tip of the week. And so the tip of the week is right here. How many people heard of Robert? I always have a hard time saying his last name. Kawasaki. He he he,
Kiyosaki.
he wrote that book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. You know, and
Yeah.
this is his little system right here. Let's look at the top left corner there. E. Everybody has, or almost everybody has, a job. They're employed. That E stands for employed. Of all the people that are employed, only 5% achieve wealth. Who are those 5%? Those are either high income earners, right? Professionals, and those that know how to save their money. So not everybody's a saver, right? But if you're an employee, only 5% are going to, have wealth. The next box down, 95% of the population that are self-employed, basically they switch from being an employee to owning their own job. What do I mean by that? If you're self-employed, sometimes what happens is you're just trading, ownership of who owns it, right? But you still are owned by the business. In other words, the business owns you. You don't have time. I've met so many people that are self-employed, and the business owns them. They don't have time. If they stop, right? No money's going to come in. That's self-employed, right? Then this look over to the top right, 95% of the wealth right there own a system. That's a business owner. Guys, we have a beautiful system in place. You know, if you own the system, which I'm going to talk about the system here in a second, that's where the wealth is at. That means that you don't have to be here. You know, I took a 2 week vacation, enjoyed, you know, myself with my family, had some time to relax and just, you know, get away. And it was beautiful because I was getting daily deposits every day. Why? Because I own a system, I own a business, right? I don't have to be there 100% of the time. 5% of the population achieves wealth because they invest. They own their own investments, right? Maybe they own real estate, maybe they own, you know, stocks, bonds, maybe they own some kind of, you know, investment portfolio, but that's only 5% of the population. Guys, the wealth comes from either being self-employed or having your own system. So let's talk about that for a second, right? And so, oops, I'm going, oh yeah, that's right. So this is our promotional, you know, agent level guideline, right? So brand new agent come on board, you know, they don't have any experience. We start those folks off at 85%. That's our agent trainee. That's your comp rate, right? Uh, you if you want to screenshot this would be great, but if you take a look at level 2, we call that person an agent. That means that they had to do something. They had to write $8,000 of issue paid premium in 1 calendar month, and then they get a raise. They get a 5% bump in commission, right? And if they go and do 10,000 the next month, then they're bumped up to advisor, and then they get bumped up to 95%. Here's the beautiful thing. If you bring somebody into the business and you recruit another agent, we're going to count their volume towards your volume. Okay. So if you have two agents that are writing $5,000 a month and you write $8,000 a month, that's 18,000. That would put you at the sales manager level and you'd be at 105%. So you see how that works? Now, I don't want you to get this confused with being some kind of multi-level marketing. We're not a multi-level marketing organization. You don't have to recruit anybody. You could just be a producer and make money by yourself. But guys, if you want to earn a passive income, if you want to own your own business where you're not having to be there 100% of the time, my recommendation is to build an agency. Bring people on, but do this in your own time and your own pace. You need to first be successful so that you can teach others how to be successful. So, but when you're successful and you're ready to bring other people on and you have the time to invest in them, we have the platform. It's right here. Start recruiting, start building an agency. You can see that you can earn all the way up to 135%, and that would be your level. So guys, it's a team effort once you start recruiting, and it's a beautiful thing. I don't, Richard, if you want to add or comment on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really it's not hard to reach these promotions. You know, I think it's fair to say that as long as you're on a recurrent lead order and you have the people to see and get in front of, it's very easy to get promoted and write these numbers. You could certainly write $20,000 of issue paid premiums per year individually, and then of course collectively, if you of course if you add agents, then it'll be collectively. But it's really nice because these agent levels are a lot higher than what they would be if you were to go work for some type of other agency, captive agency or something, anything like that. So it's been great for me, I know. So I really love the agent levels.
Awesome. All right, so let's go to the next slide. Oops, wrong way. I keep going the wrong direction. Sorry about that. Let me give you an example about agency building, right? If you were to get 10 agents hired on in your agency, right? And the number of apps sold per week per agent was 4. So we're talking about 4 full-time agents. I mean, four apps is full-time agents. So 10 full-time agents, and your annualized premium is $650, and you'd get a 10% override. You could be making $4,600 of override income in 1 week. You do that consistently over the year, you're looking at $130,000 of commissions paid annually, right? I mean, it comes out weekly, but I mean, it adds up annually to 130,000. Guys, that's just 10 agents. That's 10 10 agents full-time writing 4 apps a week, right? Now that's easier said than is actually done. But start with 1, go to 3, go to 5, and just build on it. It takes time. I think it took me a year to have 10 agents. And once I had 10 agents, and then keeping them engaged, keeping them, plugged into the system, into the training, that's the key to ultimately is the success is staying engaged, doing the system. So I have a question for you. Well, first I have a statement. The statement is this: we have a proven system that works. We have hundreds of agents nationwide that have proven that our system works. It works. I'm living example of it. I've been in the insurance industry now 9 years, 5 years prior to Senior Solutions, 5 years of living on a roller coaster, 5 years of being broke 1 month and eating steak the second month, right? 5 years of frustration. I got to tell you, in pain, and then to come on with Senior Solutions, and really it was like a light switch. My whole life changed in consistent income. That's what everybody needs, but it also takes consistent activity. So here's the question, right? If we have the system, a proven system that works, the question is, will you work the system? See, that part's on you. I can't help you with that. I can't hold your hand and get you up early every day. I can't get you out in the field early every day. Only you can do that. So will you work the system? And that's the question I have for you. So I don't you gotta anything to add to that, Richard?
No, I think that's pretty good.
Awesome. Well, folks, that's the end of our webinar. Thank you so much for attending today. Again, this was your host, Jimmy Hernandez. Had fun with you. Richard, I really appreciate you being on the call today.
Thanks for
By
having
the
me.
way, for those that are still on the call, Richard lives in San Antonio, but probably lives in El Paso, Texas more than in his hometown. He's going back and forth working the 2 markets. Just if you don't know your geographic, El Paso is really a long drive. How long does it take to go back and forth, Richard?
In San Antonio, about 8 hours roughly.
And 8-hour drives. Are you committed? I think Richard's committed. What do y'all think? So guys, get out there and make some money. Y'all have a great weekend.
All right, thanks guys. Y'all have a good one.
Bye-bye.